Mental health. 3 questions. What is it? How big is this issue? And what are the stigmas associated with it? For the first question, most people would have some idea of how to define mental health. The other 2, however, are not as simple. Is the prevalence of mental health disorders a burden on the education system? Should universities provide additional resources to treat these issues? And finally, does society's perception of mental health present a barrier for students to access the resources they need? Let's start off with the first question. What is mental health? Broadly defined, it's about you having control over the events in your life, rather than these events controlling you. For instance, one of the greatest difficulties that students face every day is expectations. Based on how we were raised, the people we spend time with, and how we think about the world around us, we develop expectations for what our lives should be like both in the present and in the future. When we fail to reach the expectations we've set out for ourselves, disappointment, anxiety, and in some cases, depression may ensue. If these emotions are prolonged and we lose the ability to perform normal daily tasks, it's important to note that this isn't a sign of weakness. Instead, it's an indication that we need to seek support from our family, friends, or professionals. In fact, mental health issues affect almost everyone at least once in their lifetime. Now, this leads to our second question. How big is this issue? According to the National College Health Assessment, 89% of all Canadian post-secondary students reported feeling overwhelmed by their responsibilities within the last 12 months. More than half had felt a sense of hopelessness, and over a third reported being so depressed that it was difficult to function. Mental health issues affect your friends, your family, and chances are they're affecting you. So knowing how common mental health issues are, why don't we hear about them? Why don't people talk about mental health in the cafeteria? What's stopping people from seeking help for their struggles? It all comes down to one word: stigma. Stigma driven by myths and misconceptions about mental illness. A common one, often perpetuated by media, is that individuals with mental illness are violent. This stigma can act as a barrier, limiting opportunities for employment, housing, and education, causing the loss of family and friends. It can also affect self-image when one starts to believe the negative views held by others, known as self-stigma. The goal of our project, Unleash the Academia, is to investigate how mental health and mental illness are perceived on university campuses. We want to know what students, professors, and staff have to say, and investigate whether mental health stigma exists on campus.
I'd say it's a growing culture. I think that I've noticed more growth since I started 3 years ago, just in terms of seeing advertisements for the Counseling Disability Center.
Master is very inclusive communities and a community, and we provide a positive space for most students to discuss mental health issues openly.
I've noticed a lot more positive, sort of supportive attitudes around mental health. I believe all the candidates for the Fed selection had something on mental health within their platform, so that's really good progress.
So I think there's a lot of kind of positive campaigns happening around mental health, which I think is a really great beginning, but I think I'd really like to see more institutional buy-in and support in terms of the way that the structure of the university is creating mental health problems for students. I think the university does offer more support than is offered to people outside of the university, but I still don't quite think it's enough. You know, we seem to have a lot of budget to build beautiful new buildings, and I wonder why we don't seem to find the budget to hire new counselors to cut down those waiting times.
We want students to know that it's okay if they have a mental illness, or that they feel like they're struggling with stress or mental illness, and it's okay to seek out help when needed. It's okay to talk to your friends about these things, because that is actually a huge barrier to a lot of students who need to seek help. It's actually identifying that it's okay, and that there are services and supports.
This year there was a campaign to stomp out the stigma surrounding mental health and mental illness called Today I Feel. So this campaign involved using the hashtag Today I Feel to discuss how you feel, and it was sort of a way to combat the stigma surrounding mental illness and kind of discuss how it's something that's on a spectrum. Like one day you can feel great, one day you can feel like pretty
I think I've seen recently is the implementation of mental health training for all student volunteers that are present during orientation week. I think that starting that has been a really good initiative for helping them to be able to identify it in the beginning, but then also I think really bringing that and broadening that to all student groups on campus. I think when you have student leaders who are educated about mental illness and educated about the stigma that people might experience, I think it makes people more open and understanding, and then allows students to approach those people then.
There's a lot of different stuff going on, like Stand Up to Stigma or different initiatives like Move Your Mind or whatnot, but there's no really uniting body there, which not only makes it a little bit inefficient in the way the services are being delivered and offered, but also in how the students can access those services. So it's really confusing.
But it's not very advertised, or like the people who want to learn more, they know where it is, but other people that are not really concerned or stuff like that don't really know, as myself, where to get more information.
Like any challenge that needs to be addressed, I think mental health needs to be better resourced.
The band seems very high because I know people who wanted to get in and couldn't. So again, good that the demand is there for it, and if there could be room to expand on those programs, that would be fantastic.
If I go see a counselor, there is a social stigma attached to it.
I've felt less comfortable talking about mental health with my peers, my student peers, than with professors.
Because of the stereotypes that are out there, a lot of people might be afraid to come out, and that kind of encourages the secrecy. But I think that if there is more awareness, even in classes, of mental illnesses, or if as a group of students here, if we encourage people to come who have mental illnesses to talk about it, then others would be more aware of it and have a better understanding, and that might encourage people to not be so secretive about it, because they wouldn't be so afraid of having a false stigma associated with it.
The background that I'm from, which is South Asian community, I feel that there's a lot of stigma around mental health. It looks like, what does it look like? It's not talked about. It's something to be ashamed of. It's not supposed to be shown to the world. It's supposed to keep hidden. It's a secret, and it should just get better by itself.
They are stigmatizing themselves first. Why are they doing that? Because people around them would automatically assume that they are not capable of being in engineering or being in accounting or being in any program just because they're having a tough issue, like adjusting to a new culture.
Given the fact that immigrants are more likely to be susceptible to mental health issues, moving to Canada, a new country, new climate, new everything, not easy. So it needs to be, efforts need to be made to target this group.
The best way to eliminate stigma is to get people to talk about it.
No, I don't feel stigmatized. I feel that most faculty here are very accepting of people with mental health problems.
I think people undermine the support of friends, and I think friends are a very good support system.
I also like just talk to my friends to see how they're doing and if like they're in the same boat as me.
Just having older role models in my life that have walked the same steps that I have, I think is really important.
Finding outlets to be able to share what's happening. So whether that's with a friend, with a counselor, with someone else who has a similar experience, we find that that is one of the most beneficial things, because oftentimes students feel like they're alone.
Strategies like, you know, having a better, well-rounded diet, joining clubs.
Some strategies that I use to cope with stress are mainly two. That is, I exercise and I learn to manage my time more wisely by keeping an agenda of the things that I have to do.
I use a bunch of different strategies. I try to distract myself sometimes, and that either through exercise mostly, I think that's a really great distraction, or sometimes just taking a break and watching like an episode of TV.
Things like cognitive behavioral therapy, alternative methods of therapy like meditation.
As I've discovered, the importance of sleeping enough for my own mental health cannot be understated.
Being aware of taking care of not only physical health but your mental well-being as well. So making sure that your self-reflection, taking time to read and just be on my own without school stresses or work stresses is also a big one.
Just dancing in general, it's just such a release, it's such a help. Like it just gets stuff off my chest and it's just a good outlet. Listening to music.
Finding physical activity does help a lot with reducing stress and tension. Coping with stress, active and passive. Active means of coping with stress are any kind of exercise that you like to do. Passive strategies are how do you wind down? What do you do for self-soothing? There's good relaxation resources on our website. Mindfulness meditation is all over the web. We have a mindfulness center on campus as well.
Another thing that I do is go see a counselor so that they help me realize that I'll be okay, I can handle the work that I have to do, I don't have to be such an overachiever.
You see that there are a bountiful amount of services and people that students can turn to when they're looking for support.
By virtue of having counseling and health under one umbrella, I think students are coming in here for a variety of reasons. They can be coming for a mental health or counseling reason, but they can also be coming just for a regular checkup. And our primary care doctors are also very skilled in dealing with student mental health concerns.
I really suggest you go see a counselor. They're very helpful. They don't intimidate you at all. They give you very good advice and they really help guide you in making good decisions.
I went to go see a guidance counselor to speak at universities last semester, and it was incredibly helpful and really eye-opening the way that I was able to think and how it changed my kind of train of thought.
If you have a random thought, you can always just go up to them and it helps to just release stress.
I don't think many first years think about mental health. Or even though we have mental health services, I don't think I knew that until I was in my third year. So it was pretty shocking to figure out. I was happy, but I was like, why haven't I found about this earlier? So I think part of it is just promoting these things.
Mainly it was the wait time between seeing people because there's so many people that have to, or there's so many people that are struggling that go to counseling services, etc. So you end up waiting a long time in between appointments, which was really hard for me. Glow has the peer support where you can just walk in and get one-on-one peer support with someone, which is really great.
Student Wellness Center I know is available, but then the thing with that is that's at the end of the hallway in the basement of Student Center, so sometimes it almost feels like a walk of shame just to go down there.
We have facilities designed for students with mental health, and we're very accommodating. There are students that tutor other students, and students that need extra time on exams. Often we always get them.
You can actually get accommodations if you have the paperwork that you did with your doctor. It's really easy. I have them since my first semester here. It's really available, but you need to know where to go now.
As far as the campus is concerned, I have special privileges from the library over here. I get special text from the library accessibility services.
There's two different sides. If it's actual mental illness that's been diagnosed, I think the school accepts that. But I mean, if I were having social issues, not so much.
I'd like to see faculties maybe have more outlets for students, maybe dealing with mental health or mental illnesses, or just in general, if you are stressed, you have an outlet to go to.
I had a very great experience doing the Unleash the Noise Academia project. It gave me a lot of research experience I would not have otherwise gotten through my Bachelor of Arts program at Queen's University. And it also added on to the experience I've had being the co-chair for the Mental Health Awareness Committee at Queen's University.
I thought that this project was a great initiative and that it was one of the first steps that we could take to have an openness towards mental health care issues, to help reduce the stigma and to continue reducing the stigma.
The reason why I want to involve in this project is because one of my close friends is suffering from major depression, and through talking to him I understand some of his struggle, so I want to know more about mental health culture being in such a stressful environment.
The reason I got involved with the mental health project here at McMaster is because I really think that this is an issue that needs to be brought more into light and isn't really something that people talk about. And so I kind of really wanted to learn a bit more and to maybe educate others a bit about what these kind of mental health issues really are.
Previously, I definitely realized that mental health is a very big issue, but I feel like this whole experience has really brought to light how much more we can all contribute to raising mental health awareness in our community, and how everyone can take an initiative to ensure that more is being done.
I think this project captured and how it's unique was that, it would ask for the almost like personal accounts of the people. You hear a much more in-depth description of what they went through rather than simply being given statistics. And I feel like that personal touch to the project made it a lot more interesting and a lot more meaningful, essentially.
While working on filming for this mental health film, I definitely learned a lot both about mental health stigma in my university campus and in general in Canada. One thing that I noticed, which is really exciting, is that people are excited about talking about mental health. There's more talk about it than ever before, more discussion of stigma, more clubs and places for people to be open about the mental health and not feel as much shame about it.